He's thrown on the run, and it is caught. Touchdown, Keenan Allen. What a grab.
That's what I'm talking about. Hey, that's what I'm talking about. That's the warrior spirit right there, boy.
Huge sack by Joey Bosa.
90-yard touchdown. 90-yard touchdown.
It's going to be picked off at the 8-yard line by Derwin James.
Herbert sets his feet, takes a shot downfield, has Guyton. Caught! Touchdown, Chargers!
That's the greatest throw I've ever seen.
Dadgummit! Thunder Down Under Chargers Football Podcast. A fine welcome to you all, wherever you are, however you may be listening. Andy here, joined by Jack and Alistair. Hello, boys.
Hey, mate.
Howdy.
How are we doing today? This week?
Yeah, well, I have been better. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, if you can't be with us through the bad times, don't be with us at all, right? Thanks for joining me, you both. Helping me remedy what I watched on Monday afternoon. I did go a bit silent on the socials, just trying to digest everything and, cope with it all.
Wouldn't have anything to do with the weekend we had, would it, mate?
Oh, that was just a lot of love and a lot of fun. All clean stuff. Oh, golly. Today we'll get through the Jags review. We've got a new game just to break it up, just to get a bit of light into the show this week after the football weekend that we've had as Chargers fans. And then we will preview the seemingly anticipated Texans matchup in Week 4 in Houston to round the show out. So, on Sunday, Jacksonville Jaguars 38, Los Angeles Chargers 10. It was a glorious afternoon in South California. Beams of sunlight glistening through the glass ceiling, just right for Sunday afternoon football. And that's where the buck stops. It was a 0-0 scoreline at the first break off the back of 2 consecutive 3-and-outs by the Chargers offense. The signs were ominous. Bosa left the game through injury, and James Robinson was starting to find some rhythm out of the Jags' backfield. Sunshine was turning to clouds, dark and stormy. A dropped catch by Sonny Michel on the Chargers' third drive, leading to a pick in the Jags' red zone, followed by an uncharacteristic Justin Herbert fumble, saw the defense back on the field with another short field situation. Chargers suffering 10 points from drives off back-to-back turnovers, putting the score out at 13-0. Some light did return to the Chargers. A 75-yard Herbert-led drive capped off a textbook twisty catch by Mike Williams in the end zone. Jacksonville answered back but had to settle for a field goal after Derwin James gave Trevor Lawrence a whack short of the goal line. A 54-yard bomb to Jalen Guyton looked to be the spark the Bolts needed, but stunted play calling hampered the momentum of a drive that fizzled out in the red zone, resulting in a field goal. From there, it was all Jacksonville. Robinson was at it again, a devastating 50-yard TD run on 4th and 1 on the Jags' reply drive. Then a 60-yard TD drive capped off with a Christian Kirk touchdown. Penalties on the offensive line continued to derail any hope the Chargers had of clawing back the 21-point deficit by the start of the fourth quarter. And OC Press Taylor for the Jags continued to work the Bolts defense ragged behind Robinson and Etienne. If the result wasn't out of the question by this point, Etienne's effort in the run and pass game were special in setting up Trevor Lawrence's third passing touchdown for the day. That rip snorted to Marvin Jones Jr. in the back of the end zone. Oddly, it seemed the Chargers went even harder from here, keeping Herbert on the field and unfortunately seeing the end to Jalen Guyton's season in the dying stages of the game. These Jags look like they're on the way to being a dangerous team and have vastly improved on the laughingstock they've been. Chargers now fall to 1-2, and it's a little bit more than just we had a bad day. Oh, golly. Jack, what is your first lasting thought from the game?
Just chuckling inanely to himself.
Yeah, just chuckling inanely. You know what? I just got to get this off my chest first. What I'm going to read is I'm going to read about 20 dot points, and I'm going to slowly go through them, and this is how my mind went throughout the game. First quarter, come on, Austin. First bit of undiscipline. Man, Robinson's first run. Mike Williams had amazing coverage on him. Bow up run defense. F word. Sorry, Lombardi. Play call, 5:40, first quarter, is F word, S word, power it. Kenneth Murray getting abused. Bosa, oh no, oh F word. Penalties, all capital. F me, fumble pick, all capitalized. Effing Pickett, DJ, capitalized. This is effing disgraceful, capitalized. Why are we relying on Carter and Everett? Shocking first half. Staley has been outcoached first half. McKitty effing sucks. S word. Slater, injury, S word. And then I stopped taking notes. So there we go. It's
Probably
out.
for the best.
Yeah, probably for the best. Alistair, well, let's go on to you.
Yeah, okay. It was just a confluence of the worst possible events, right? Everything that could go wrong did go wrong. From catastrophic injury to coaches being outclassed to players failing to execute in key moments. So where do we take the discussion? I might start with the coaching. On the offensive side of the ball, on the rewatch, it's just clear that defensive coordinators are working out this Lombardi mechanism. On most passing concepts, you've got kind of two short routes being curls of some description. You've got a running back out into the flat. You've got some kind of a deep post or over, often run by Williams. And defenders are just sitting on anything deep because they're not fearful of the speed on our offense. And they're just challenging us to take those shots. And then Lombardi comes in and Herbert, playing for the first time with fractured cartilage, getting used to his body. They're thinking, get the ball out of his hands quickly, dump the ball off. And they were just sitting there ready for it. And they were ready to stop the run. The sad thing is there did not seem to be a plan B when that begun to happen. It was more of the same. For our running backs, their average depth of target was what we discussed earlier, right? Eckler's average depth of target in the passing game, minus 1.9 yards. Kelly's minus 6. So you're throwing to them behind the line of scrimmage. That's on the offense. On the defense, we decided we're going to try and light Trevor Lawrence up. We blitzed him on 42.5% of downs. But guess what? We only got 18.5 of them. And we only got pressure on 17.5 of them because they were ready for it and they knew, right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the ball out immediately to our running backs. And it just happened over and over again. Etienne or Robinson weren't covered adequately by Tranquil or sometimes Derwin or sometimes Murray. And to Trevor Lawrence's credit, he made good decisions and made just enough beautiful throws in there. He's almost Mahomesian. When he gets out of the pocket, he's really deadly because he's got a great arm. And yeah, I mean, they just dominated us on both sides of the ball. And again, if we're looking at trends, this team's ability to adjust in second halves is problematic. Last year, it felt like once teams work us out, we don't respond too well in second halves. And it's also reflected generally by the fact we're getting outscored heavily in second halves. So there's a lot of soul searching to be done. Andy, what do you think?
Yeah, coaching and play calling, personnel was a big one for me. Why was Sony Michel the receiving back? Like, the league knows he's not a good receiving back, really. Josh Kelly's been great thus far in the preseason and the lead up. I'd much rather have him in there. But we don't seem to make changes. Like you said, his average depth of target was -6, and he got absolutely smoked on one. But he keeps working hard, and he's actually hanging on to the ball. Too much nickel base. We got smashed on the field, like you said, with only 2 linebackers on the field and no Bosa in both run defense and coverage. They just weren't getting close to getting a tackle near the line of scrimmage, really. And look, I mean, we've got to talk about the injuries as well. The guys that weren't on the field because of them, and then what we were going into the game with, and what we sustained during the game. Like I said at the top, Joey Bosa went down. Rashawn Slater tore a bicep. He's out for the season. Jalen Guyton with 2 minutes to go in the game. Just crazy. It looked awful live, and then when I watched it 4 more times, it looked even worse. Not as inconspicuous as or innocuous rather, as Sherling Shepherds. But they're big losses.
Can I use that for an entry point for a question? Because I think it ties in nicely to the coaching thing. I love Staley. Staley's my dad. I love him. This is one of the only times where I've thought, objectively, this is really bad coaching to have Herbert in the game with 4 minutes left, down 28 points. And whether it's Staley or Lombardi, chucking the ball deep to Guyton when you're down 4 scores, in my opinion, just run the ball and get the hell out of there. What's happened now is Herbert actually got hit a couple of times when he was passing the ball late, and Guyton's done his ACL catching a meaningless 40-yard pass attempt. Throw to you, Jack. Wrong decision for Staley to have those people in the field in that situation? Is it a clear-cut one for you?
Not when Guyton is a clear wide receiver 5. If it's Mike Williams, then I probably have an issue with it. Guyton is wide receiver 5. As much as people like to think that he's a wide receiver 4, DeAndre Carter's taken wide receiver 4 off of him. If it's Joshua Palmer down there and he does his knee, yeah, I'm questioning that. In terms of the Herbert decision, listen, I think now that we've all spoken and got a little bit of our venting out, which is quite cathartic, I do sort of want to let's try and bring this up a little bit here, because throughout the week we've been benefited with the time between seeing the game on Monday, our time. We're 3 days removed from that now, so we've had a lot of media. Staley was looking very rattled in press conferences. Herbert was very guarded at the end of the game. Our reporters were really going hard at them. I just finished watching Staley's most recent press conference. He's got composure back. He's there. So to actually sort of, I think, start to be too negative on the coaching, I don't think is fair. This is Staley's probably first big test. People are saying he's lost the locker room, etc., etc. I disagree. As you're right, Staley's my dad too. The way that he leads the team, the way that he speaks is fantastic.
Quick segue, Jack, if it's all right.
I was going to say, should he have left Justin Herbert on the field? Listen, he makes that pass. We get a touchdown. All of a sudden, the score's 17-38. Doesn't look too bad. We lose a wide receiver. Justin Herbert gets hit. Hey, I don't know. I think as a young quarterback, he's establishing himself as a leader, and I think it's good that he wants to go out there and play. And at the end of the day, you can't help a grown man if that's what he wants to do.
Or can you? Is it your role as the coach to say, hey, look, this is a situation where I take command. I know you want to go in, but it's for the long-term good.
Yes, you can, but we didn't, and I don't think it's had any negative effect on Justin Herbert.
Okay. Sorry to have interrupted you. There was a tweet from an ex-Chargers scout, and he said, going to get real interesting inside the Chargers building this week. Had already heard about some rumblings regarding team's leadership and players not having buy-in with the staff's messaging. Losing like this won't help. Now, he's no longer with the team, but he was a scout with Telesco recently. And that tweet has generated a lot of discussion. What stock you put in it, I don't know. Too much is being read into
Nothing.
Sebastian Joseph Day calling a players-only meeting after the game, and then the players storming out and not doing their usual media availability. I don't see anything wrong with that. That's a player-led discussion.
That's fantastic. I think it's accountability. What happened on the field? Yes, the coaching's not helping, but from a defensive point of view, if I want to take a positive out of the game, man, that defense kept us in it. For that first quarter and a half, that defense was playing lights out. SJD as well. He probably had his best game for us. Asante Samuel Jr. playing very well. Derwin James playing very well. Yeah, our linebackers were getting a little bit abused in coverage and things like that. But, man, that defense did everything it could to keep us in the game. If that's last year, I think the offense keeps us in the game. We still lose. And this is where the coaching, this is where the divergence of coaches go in. And we're not going to heap crap on Lombardi because a lot of other podcasts and people are doing that. But it's clear that Staley has his fingers all over the defense. He's got an off-season acquiring free agents and drafting for it. It's clear they've improved and they're going to be, I hope, a top 10 defense. Something's going on, or the offense hasn't improved alongside of it. It feels like we're still back in week 18 versus the Raiders. What do you think about that, Andy?
Look, that's what made to answer this. I think that, golly, lost me a bit.
That's all right.
Al, go.
Repeat the question, Jack.
So I was just going, do you see that there's a divergence in coaching here? Is that Staley's got his fingers all over the defense? That's improved. He's clearly let the offense go for Lombardi because he's an experienced play caller, and that's where we're seeing the disconnect.
I think that's exactly what's happening. I think Lombardi calls plays over the headset and Staley's listening to it all, but I think Staley probably empowers Lombardi basically to control the scheme and the plan how he wants to, and then Staley's focusing on the defense. Will that continue? That's the big question. Now that we're seeing, look, something is not working here, will we see a change in approach? We'll get more into that as we discuss the Texans and how they should approach that game. But look, I've got a question, Andy. Do you think we owe an apology for the comments that we made during our opponent series about the Jags and their off-season moves? Because I tell you what, some of those players are up there with the most exciting young players I've ever seen. They were getting me excited and they were belting us.
Oh, there was a lot of chat. Pardon for my absolute brain fade just before I forgot how to listen and answer a question, Jack.
That's all right, mate. No worries.
There was a lot of chat about how much money they spent, but it looks like money well spent. Foye Luakon, guys on the interior, defensive line. Christian Kirk was great. Zay Jones spread the field nicely for them early and got good yardage on second and third downs.
Devin Lloyd and Trayvon Walker are freaks. They're both absolute freaks. You can do anything with them. You can play them off-ball linebacker. When Walker had a few pass rush snaps, looking at the length of his arms and just pushing
nasty
the right time. And Josh Allen on the other side is an animal as well.
Yeah. Devin Lloyd almost had a couple of picks. There was one drive where Herbert was just mucking him up, really. He was really off. And Devin Lloyd got very close to a second one. Very exciting. Yeah, and look, it's good fun to see them to see it actually work out for them, because it was a horror show last year, and it's good for Doug Peterson. He's a Super Bowl winning coach. Good to see him back in the league and doing well. And dare I say it, it's good to see Trevor Lawrence blossoming.
And Mike McCoy.
Yeah. God, that made me ill. His damn visor. God,
that's a great job, Trevor. That's a great job.
Well, I've got to put my hand over my heart, or maybe, have a pie smashed in my face. I don't know what it is. I made fun of Jacksonville fans standing in piss, and it looks like I've pissed my pants and sitting in it right now because of that score was very embarrassing. To just divert back to this Lombardi questioning, Alistair, do you think that Herbert actually covers up some fatal flaws in Lombardi's scheme?
Oh, that's interesting. The only things he'd be covering up are the ones where he makes something happen just by his incredible athleticism outside of the pocket. And a lot of good coaches benefit from QBs making off-script plays. That's not how the play's called. That's not what they're meant to be running. But, oh, wait, Herbert has jumped up and then thrown 50 yards down the field to Guyton. And Lombardi goes, okay, good, 50-yard completion.
Yes.
I want to say that Herbert actually needs to share in some of the blame from Lombardi, because on the rewatch, Herbert does have a bit of an aversion to turning the ball over. He's very safe with the football. If he can take a check down, he will, from my perception. And I've seen a few plays this weekend where it looked like had he waited a little longer for the play to develop, there were players coming uncovered down the field. Now, whether that's to do with his ribs and him wanting to dunk it off, or something more, intrinsic to him, I'm not 100% sure, but I suspect it's more the latter, because it is something I have noticed with Herbert. He doesn't like putting the ball in harm's way, just throwing it up. He will err on the side of going short if he has to, not to turn it over. Not that it's just an observation.
Or absolutely thunder the ball into the receiver's hands. He does have a tendency when he's perhaps throwing the more riskier pass, he decides, all right, I'm going to throw it in a place where really only the wide receiver can get it, and I'm just going to throw the absolute hell out of it. Yeah. That pick to Sonny Michel, he threw that hard, man. That was very, very hard. And is that
you got to catch that though. You got to catch that.
Agreed. But you're right, Alistair. I didn't think Herbert looked particularly nervous in the pocket. I didn't think he didn't have feet. He didn't have happy feet. His technique was still pretty sound. It was just perhaps it's just that mental game, and I find it bizarre that he kept going. What I do with my body is entirely up to me, and I'm not going to say anything. There's some whether we might not see it in the physical aspect of the game, but there's some things going on upstairs, I think, with him there. So he still had a pretty incredible game. That throw to Guyton was just ridiculous, and the fact that he played was great.
Yeah.
He'll get better too.
Yeah,
He's probably fed up of being, forced to answer the questions the same way every time, and then people questioning his own integrity. He's going, okay, no one scripted me an answer for this. This is from the heart, but back off. Look, there obviously was a natural level of apprehension. He hadn't really had that kind of test. He didn't have that many reps at practice during the week. So he wasn't quite sure. Then he copped a hit, and once he sort of got through that, he seemed a bit better, but we just weren't getting any separation, and weren't. I don't think we were in remotely invested in the run game at all. I thought a few things didn't work, and then we just didn't really look to change it up. Didn't really look to get Josh Kelly in there that much. I keep going on about that, but we've got Isaiah
Well, he should have
Spiller.
been in the game, Andy. I was very annoyed where the second drive on offense, Michelle's lining up in the backfield, got a few touches. It's that same thing with Fehoko. Why aren't we rewarding the player who's earned the reps?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And then lo and behold, there's an interception involving that player. There's plenty of blame to be shared for that play, but I didn't think Michelle should have been on the field at that stage of the game. It was very early. Give Kelly a run. Can we talk offensive line for a bit?
Just before I just want to ask you, Alistair. Is it time we saw Isaiah Spiller suit up?
Yeah, I think it is.
Is this not a good opportunity against the Texans to blood him against? They've got Jerry Hughes, but they're not that flash. I don't think.
I think it would be a great opportunity, and I think because of this loss, I'd be in favour of getting active a couple of the rookies. JT Woods for Aloy Gilman. Give it a go.
Yeah, great call. What a liability.
Isaiah Spiller for Sony Michelle. I know that sounds harsh. Just say, Sony, we're giving you a rest. We want to give a game to Spiller. We're going to rotate our backfield week to week. You're a veteran player. Have the week off. Listening to Staley today doesn't sound like that's the plan, because when he was asked about Spiller, he started talking about Kelly and that it's about special teams ability. So Michelle in their mind, Michelle's an RB2. He's a power back, and I'd like to see what's behind door number 2 at this point for a couple of positions.
I guess that's a good segue then to talk about the offensive line, because Staley came out today and talked about Jamari Salyer starting at left tackle, which a lot of people are excited about, and I think all of us three included. But I guess the decimation, of Slater tearing a bicep tendon, out for the year, see you later. That really rocked me, being an offensive lineman. When I saw that injury happen, I've almost immediately gone the way that he's carrying the arm. It didn't look like a shoulder. It looked like the unfortunate bicep tear.
Real weird, didn't it? It was like Joey Bosa's as well. They were almost like when you force something and you slip because of all the isometric contraction and it stretches. That's how it just goes ping. And it was like Bosa's groin when his legs came out from underneath him when he swung around on the edge there. Rashawn Slater's left arm slipped when he was blocking, and then just nasty stuff. Yeah, nasty stuff.
And I think, Alistair, you were watching the All-22 tape. What was your take on the offensive line? You had some interesting takeaways.
Yeah, I thought early they were relatively okay. I mean, they gave up something like 20 pressures over the course of the game. 1 sack. It's not like they couldn't operate at all. It's not like plays were getting beaten straight away until Slater went out of the game. Once Slater went out of the game, completely different story. Norton gave up something like 8 pressures in a half of football.
5 minutes.
Ridiculous. What I was noticing is there's something about Will Clapp. I can't put my finger on it, but he's personally not responsible for like pressures. It's not his man getting the pressure or the sack, but he's always facing away from where the free rusher comes, or he's giving help to a guard who doesn't need it. And when you look at it, how both of our guards played, and Filer really struggled, Zion less so, but a couple of times he did. Mm-hmm. You just wonder, is that happening when if Corey Linsley's in the lineup? Do you think it would be happening?
Well, I think I made the observation that when you sent through a couple of those videos, that it seems that Will Clapp is getting the ball off fine. He's probably not making as many pre-snap reads as Linsley's saying. It doesn't look like there's a lot of control in terms of voice as well. It doesn't seem like he's pointing out and he doesn't know where the protection's coming from. And I guess for him as an offensive lineman, you just want to make sure that you're getting hands on someone. And the videos that you shared, Alistair, and then I had a look myself, is you're right. He's not personally responsible, but he's not really doing much to help it when he is helping. And he's spinning his head side to side going, well, what's going on? I don't think those pressures, especially up the middle, is that the one where you showed the double A gap blitz, the stunt or the cross?
Yeah, the crossfire.
And he's just got no idea. I mean, Eckler and the running backs do a pretty good job, or did a pretty good job on that one. Linsley's just so important. And the left side of that line is going to be so important. And if Linsley doesn't play against the Texans, it's going to be a fascinating kind of experiment with Solier at left tackle. But Johnson, I thought, was still very good. For a third game, I thought he was still very good.
Not a great start for our new O-line coach, right? Frank Smith left to go be the OC for Miami. You've got the new guy, Brendan Nugent. Through 3 weeks, the gradings are right down the bottom of the league. Let's hope that wasn't a bad hire. It's still early, small sample size, but not a great start.
And Miami having a very good year on the offensive line too.
And they were 32nd last year. Suddenly they look capable. Have we let a star leave the building? Time will tell. Also no Xander Horvath to be seen, really, which again...
Yeah, not much.
Lombardi. I know he's your boy. What can Lombardi be doing, Prof, to just use Xander a bit more?
Oh, just a little bit more, I think, versatility. There's a lot of chat surrounding Joe Lombardi's playbook resembling the likes of a Cheesecake Factory menu. But all I'm seeing available is one type of cheese and one type of cake, and they ain't that good. It's very vanilla. He's not utilising personnel well. Get Trey McKitty off the field. And I just feel like you can really use Xander Horvath in the passing game more. I mean, we've used him well in the red zone, which is a bit odd. But, when the likes of Donald Parham come back into the fold, God, he's been a big miss, as well as Keenan. There's hope of potentially both of those guys playing
They're all training individually. Could get all of those back. Linsley, Keenan, JC Jackson, Donald Parham.
Jeez, a lot of good names.
I'll take two of them.
Specifically, what can he do? I just think he's just broaden his horizons a little bit, Coach Joe, to get Horvath back into the game a little bit more.
Why is it that we have Everett and DeAndre Carter leading our receptions? What's the go? Are opposition teams bracketing and doubling Mike Williams? Is Keenan Allen that much of a loss that we cannot get the ball to Mike Williams and we have to go? But I'm also thinking, is Carter and Everett, are they Herbert's first or second reads, or are they the third or fourth read? I struggled to see that. Alistair, what do you think? I'm finding it quite perplexing. I don't mind it. I mean, because there's yardage there.
No,
but when you've got
players.
Yeah, but when you've got a guy you've just paid, almost, $16, $20 million a year, and he's sort of into the game, out of the game, into the game, out of the game, what's going on?
Well, in this game, on the rewatch, the Jags just bracketed Williams the entire game. They sat Darius Williams off him, and then on the inside was either Andre Sisco or Rayshon Jenkins. They were saying, we are not letting this guy beat us deep. We're not going to give him one-on-one opportunities. A couple of times when he almost had them, Herbert just didn't go there, because Herbert will look, and if nothing's open and no one's being schemed open, that's something we haven't talked about. You just see the first 2.5 seconds, you look, who's the open guy? No one at all. Maybe because they're a bit slow. But so Herbert is straight away going ball out of his hand to running back. Yeah. Bang, tackled. Yeah. So Mike Williams is a big man. It takes him 4 seconds to get down the field, right? And he's been bracketed. There's no Keenan to help him out. that's what the result is.
What do you see as, I mean, Keenan will come back, but losing a speed guy, and we've brought in Jason Moore. Al, what do you see as being what do we need from the wide receiver group to develop some rhythm and consistency for this passing game?
I think we'll find that Keenan's return does make a large difference. We might go back to what it was like week 1 and 2, where he's still putting 20 to 24 points up and then looking for big playability from Mike Williams. We weren't using Guyton very much before he did his ACL, right?
Not at all.
So it's
Not at all.
you know, a handful of snaps per game. Jason Moore might do something similar this week, where he's on the field 5 to 7 snaps for the game. I think it's just a deficit we have of speed, and we went into the season deliberately making that choice. We didn't address it. We thought it's more important to address the defense and the offensive line, and we thought we could win with what we have. And it just shows we're a bit limited in what we can do. We're a bit one-dimensional because we don't have a speed element, although you can always try to sign someone off the street like we did with John Hightower.
I think just one of my last points, and this is more of a rhetorical question that is a question, but there was Austin Eckler was very vocal in the preseason about the other running backs in the room taking his mantle. And come on, guys, challenge me. I'm going to say this to Austin Eckler. The time is now for you to challenge yourself, buddy. What's going on? There's something, I don't know whether it's scheme or whether it's your body or what's going on. We need to see some production from you, because it's been quite disappointing so far. So come on, Austin, you've got it in yourself. You can do it. Come on, let's get into one of those games where you're getting 4 touchdowns, 120 yards, baby. Come on, man. Come on.
I know. Well, this is the week, right? It's you're going to add something to that, Andy?
I was just going to say, when you rely on using him more during the drive leading up to the red zone, you're not going to see as much out of him. But we don't have the guys, or we don't have the ability to get the plays to get chunk yardage down the field, keep Eckler fresh. I still thought he fought really hard. I thought the whole team fought really hard. We ultimately couldn't adjust to what we had to, and we couldn't adjust to the changes in the game from Jacksonville and what was working and what wasn't working. We just wouldn't change how we went about it. And the Jags spent 38 minutes and 27 seconds on the field.
Our ass.
We got absolutely gassed on defense. And offensive penalties, Storm Norton. It was a whirlwind of good fun. Speaking of good fun, unless there's anything else on the game we want to dwell anymore, let's have a laugh. You want to laugh?
Yeah, let's have a laugh.
I think we need one.
Yeah.
God sakes, just give me the damn number!
All right. Numbers are everywhere, aren't they? You use them to measure stuff. We judge each other using numbers. Some people can smell them. Some people can taste them if you suffer from synesthesia.
Synesthesia, yeah.
In this segment, we're going to go around the horn talking some numbers, any numbers that have stood out to us from the NFL, and we're going to give you the damn numbers. I will start us off. My number to start us off is 10. And 10 is the number of fights I almost got into on Bolts from the Blue after the game. I apologize for anyone who was the target of my furor. I find my default position is to get extremely loyal and defensive about it, particularly Brandon Staley. And some people just the kind of off-the-cuff fire Staley. He's hopeless. He doesn't know what he's doing. Really got in my gullet. So I decided to fight back. And apologies, nothing personal, and hopefully we can move on after a win this weekend. On to you, Andy.
Nice. My first number is 6. The number of times Bills offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey smashed the desk and everything in reach after the offense failed to get the playoff to spike the ball as time expired. Props to the magic hand that appears to cover the camera well after all the carnage has taken place. That was after a pretty cruddy Chargers-related weekend of footy. That was a nice bright light. Jack.
Andy, this one's for you from a person that you've laid a bit of shade onto on the podcast. And this number's 178. And that number refers to the amount of players who caught more touchdowns than Kenny Golladay in 2021.
Jesus.
Colladay's numbers were 37 receptions, 521 receiving yards, and 0 touchdowns. Among that 178 players, 7 were offensive linemen, with 6 actually playing on the line, including Giants left tackle Andrew Thomas. So Kenny Golladay, I believe you packed up your locker and you're going somewhere else. Good luck to you, sir. And let's hope that you can catch more touchdowns than you did last season. Alistair.
Number 11 links to the Chargers again, and that's the total number of explosive plays by the Chargers through 3 weeks of the NFL season. An explosive play being defined as 10 yards on the ground or 20 yards through the air. 11 is low. It's 32nd in the league, almost a fireable offense with some of the weapons we have. Need to improve from number 11.
Good point. Well made, Ali boy. 95. The total number of points scored thus far this year by the Detroit Lions, sitting in second place in the league behind Baltimore on 99. Astounding to think in 3 weeks these would-be cellar dwellers, would have 5 TDs on the ground and 7 out of the hand of Jared Goff. Dan Campbell is the Lions guy.
They're playing all right, don't mind look at them. My number is, I'm going back to the Windy City. I have a love affair for Justin Fields, but this number is 4,000. And funnily enough, the Chicago Bears have never had a 4,000-yard passer, which is incredible when you think of the modern-day NFL. That really stuck out to me. So not even like Jim McMahon, Grossman, Jay Cutler, they never had a 4,000-year season. So Justin Fields, I hope that you can crack that 4,000-yard mark. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but maybe next year.
Here's a bizarre one. 26. The total number of points scored in a contest between Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers on the weekend. Who would have thought it? 26.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So that's a really good point. Number 1. The number 1. Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, this could be a 2, but I don't want to give that idiot Orlovsky any airtime. Jimmy Garoppolo became the first NFL quarterback to have a pick 6 saved by giving up a safety as he stepped out the back of the end zone unawarely. Bradley Chubb had ran the ball back from the flat, but yeah, Hanson Jimmy had already stepped out of the back of the end zone. 49ers lost that game by 1 point, and last time I checked, a safety was worth 2. Whoops!
See ya.
I'm going to go over to the frozen tundra in Green Bay with this number of 1,000. And that number is impressive because that is the season ticket wait list in Green Bay. You have to wait 1,000 years to get a season ticket. That is how long the list is. Whoa. So it's a really, really nice gift for your great grandchild.
That's worse than the MCC for our Melbourne listeners.
Will there even be a world, like a planet Earth, in 1,000 years?
It's a good call. Not if Vladimir's got anything to do with it. All right, number 24. The number of audio messages Jack sent us during the Jags game. For the listeners, it was incredible. Venting of the spleen in the highest order, 24. Just keep them coming, Jack. We love it.
Yeah, I think some of those notes that you'd written at the start of the game were like dictaphoned, like typed out from those audio messages. You just typed them out and gone, F word, expletive, shit. All right. The number 39, unverified but approximate amount of times "I love you, man" was uttered by yours truly on Saturday night for the celebration of our great mate and keen Thunder Down Under listener, big fan of the show, Nick Searle's Bucks party. Yeah. Congratulations, Nico, to you and your wife-to-be, the lovely Sarah. I love you, man. Make it 40.
And happy birthday to Searlesy today as well. Just
as well.
Birthday too. Going back with what you said, Alistair, about my mic'd up. This number's 48 because I went back and counted all the expletives that I uttered, and it was 48, possibly even more. And for those of you who have been listening for a while, we love our different segments or new and interesting segments. There may be a mic'd up session coming sometime soon, but I'll be sure to
work out how to keep it relatively clean.
Yeah,
it's got to be It's got to be a good day.
Otherwise, I might not have a job the next morning. So there we go.
All right, my second last one, and it's a big fat donut, the number 0, which is how many more times I ever want to see Storm Norton take an NFL football field in season 2022. Zilch.
Yeah, my second one and my first of 2 Chargers-related ones, 24. The total number of rushing yards for the Chargers against the Jags.
This is my second last one, and this is 9%. And that 9% is PFF's prediction for Austin Eckler to go over 100 yards against the Texans. 9%. Wow, we're in trouble.
Last one, and mine is 14-12-22. And that is, listeners, I've booked flights for the 14th of December 2022 to come to the United States with my then wife on our honeymoon. We'll be traveling to the West Coast, going to go to the Chargers-Rams game on New Year's Day. Really excited about it. So drop some comments on things we should do. Going to be in California and then go up to Portland and Seattle. Can't wait to be there. And of course, tailgate is a must. So if you're going to go to that game on New Year's Day, I'll be there with the Jello shots, with my big head, and we can talk about the team we love the most.
Yeah, big
Fantastic.
head. Great stuff. Number 4, for me to round out, the next group of desperately winnable games for the Chargers, starting with this one that we are about to preview against the Houston Texans before the hill starts to get pretty steep heading toward January.
Last one for me, and that's the number 1. Andy, this is the number of times you've had to leave the podcast early because of severe diarrhea. So let's not
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, got him, yes.
Let's hope that doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that was when we went real fast and loose and yeah.
Yeah, that was, yes.
All right, moving right along. That was just give me the damn numbers. Good fun. Week 4, we got the Texans coming out of the last game. As we mentioned, a few injuries. Obviously, Keenan Allen, Corey Linsley, Donald Parham, J.C. Jackson, they didn't play. Joey Bosa's groin, 4 to 6 weeks, hopefully. He's been placed on IR, which is now 4 games minimum instead of 6. Rashawn Slater, torn biceps season. Jalen Guyton, ACL season. So as a result of the 3 blokes on IR, onto our 53-man roster come Derek Tusker, outside linebacker claimed off waivers from the Steelers and the Titans. I think he was drafted by Denver. Richard Rodgers is back on again. And an interesting point, Al, you made earlier, that this is the 3rd time that he has been brought off the practice squad onto the official roster, and it is the last time he is allowed to have that happen. He can't go back on the practice squad. So he either stays or once he's cut, he is gone. And Jason Moore, the wide receiver, up from the practice squad onto the 53. Within the 53, it was announced, confirmed today, Jamari Salyer, 6th round rookie, to be our new left tackle. Woo-woo!
Come on, Jamari.
Storm Norton back in the shed to be the swing tackle, and you'd imagine Brandon Jaimez into that swing guard position that Salyer was. One signing onto the practice squad, John Hightower from the Eagles, 4.43.40. He's got a little bit of speed, some drop issues. He'll be on the practice squad, and we still have 1 remaining practice squad position. So, yeah, there we go. From a press conference standpoint, I don't think I've ever seen Staley quite on the ropes as he was, and I think for a good reason. I actually kind of liked that he got grilled about if you're saying that the best thing, like the main focus is what's best for the team and for the future of the team, but you're not overpowering an injured young quarterback. This is going to keep affecting him, so where are you sort of muddying up? And I won't say Staley's my daddy, but I'm a big fan, and I'm glad that they went at him about it and they challenged him. He had to sort of go off script a bit, and his eyes were going. He got rattled a bit.
It was like you when Jack answered that question earlier. It was just
ask that question.
White noise.
Yep. Yeah, getting too much into my other work. Drew Tranquil spoke pretty earnestly. I thought he summated the defensive downfalls quite well. Minimal pressure. We couldn't get to Lawrence. We couldn't turn the ball over. Couldn't get off the field. And SJD leaving the post-game chat. And you mentioned that earlier, Jack, and I think that's a really is a really strong and powerful thing. You take responsibility for your actions on the field. And he's the leader of the team, and he led from the front, and that was really good to see.
We almost didn't go into enough, Andy. SJD played great.
Oh, yeah, I was just about to say.
He played great, man. He had like 6 tackles in the backfield. First 2 weeks, I was very concerned about the signing. Great to see that level of effort. Keep it up.
Yep, completely agree with you. So, actually, absolutely had the podium. He had a better day than Staley or any of the coaches did, I think. So, look, improve, maintain your standards. So we move on to the Texans. They now sit at 0-2-1 on the season, coming off a close loss to the Bears, 23-20. Game probably where Houston's defense did everything it could to keep Davis Mills in the offense afloat, but no real luck. They just couldn't get the ball far enough down the field or just do anything in the red zone. Jalen Petrie was awesome to see. He had an absolute breakout day. 2 interceptions and a sack. His first career tallies in both defensive columns. And if given a bit of time, if not given time, Davis is prone to awful decisions. That said, he did look okay in parts. He does look to his tight end group and can move the ball down the field. But he just, like I said, didn't seem to convert in the red zone. Still seeing a bit of pass rush out of Jerry Hughes.
Oh, yeah.
And Lovie Smith is up to his old tricks. That was a pretty awesome fake punt to keep that drive alive. What do you see moving into the Chargers-Texans contest, Jack? What do you think the Texans' main strengths are and potential issues that the Chargers might face in this matchup?
Yeah, I think, well, you touched on it. Petrie had a great game. And I know, Alistair, you watched the game. I watched it on a 40, but I also watched Lovie Smith's press conference, and it was just interesting to see what kind of questions that the Texans media were asking him. And it seems to me that they do like rushing the passer, but they do love blitzing. I think Petrie got his last sack that was on a blitz as well, and they were blitzing throughout the game quite consistently. So I definitely think that they're going to be doing some interesting things pre-snap, which makes Lindsley being back all the more important, I think. And I mean, even though he put the ball on the ground twice, I think, but Dameon Pierce had his biggest workload for the year so far with 20 carries. He accumulated, I think, 66 of his total 80 rushing yards were after contact. So he's hard to take down, very much like your Robinson, ETN type. So those were really 2 key areas that I think that we should really be looking at is, containing Dameon Pierce and trying to actually get a fumble, which we're half decent at sometimes, and really looking at that defense pre-snap. And if Will Clapp's in there, heaven help us, let's cross our hearts and go from there. Alistair, what about you?
Yeah, to add to flavour to that defense, they've at the moment they're pressuring the quarterback, the 9th most in the league. And they've had 10 sacks, which is 5th in the league. So they're doing something right up front. There'll be a challenge there. I was super impressed with their offensive line's pass protection against the Bears. They allowed 5 pressures for the entire game. Now, historically, I have not seen that offensive line be particularly good. But Laramie Tunsil on the left is an absolute rock. And on the inside, rookie Kenyon Green looked fantastic. Right side, a bit less sure, but overall, they gave Davis Mills every opportunity to succeed. So, we're not applying the most pressure in the world at the moment. We struggled against the Jags. They had their way with our pass rushers. There's no Joey Bosa this week. Little concerned about that matchup because their offensive line looks really good.
Yep, I tend to agree with you. That was a massive point for me, was Laramie Tunsil in particular. And like we said, an issue with the Jags game is the recognition of a young quarterback to pick up that we do run nickel, so we've got less linebackers. You've got Rex Burkhead, who tore us apart last year as a huge dual threat out of the backfield as well. So that's a big thing to come up, and coaching for me as well. Like I said, I think Lovie Smith's still got a couple of tricks up his sleeve. And for mine, Staley and Lombardi do have...
I'm going to throw a challenge flag.
Okay.
Challenge flag, please. Challenge flag.
Flag on the play.
This is a new little aspect of our show we have. If we disagree, you can challenge, and then Jack, you become the referee and third man arbiter. I think Lovie Smith is a dud. I think his coaching game management is not very good, especially on fourth downs. He's one of these guys who will punt on 4th and 1 from the opposing 35 rather than attempt a 52-yard field goal. Because he's such a defensive guy and he coached the Bears in the early 2000s with Urlacher and Briggs, he will never go for it on 4th down. In fact, in week 1 against the Colts, in overtime, he chose to punt it to the Colts on a 4th and 2 at their 40 instead of trying to win the game because he didn't want to lose it. And, people were up in arms. So I think he's going to give our team some opportunities through mismanagement of game scenarios. Are you going to allow the challenge, or are you going to reject it?
Uphold the call on the field, or is the booth going to overturn? You also need to have an idea of what Lovie Smith's been about. So don't just let him swill you with his words, do his lawyer thing on you.
Tough. This is a tough one to adjudicate. I will say that
You have to be absolutely sure to overrule the
well, if I look at if we sort of move on to that next part when we analyse the opposition is when we look at the weaknesses. I think Lovie Smith has been very poor and consistently poor on the play that they're calling on short 3rd and downs. Quite poor to the point where they almost don't look like they're doing. So I am going to the flag has been thrown, and unfortunately it's holding on the offense. Andy minus 10 yards, and I apologise for that.
All right. For how you delivered that, you sounded worse than Ed Hockley's dad.
That's true.
Sean
Sorry.
Hockley.
But I think another weakness that I identified was their tackling. They are one of the worst in the league at the moment. And Lovie Smith got hounded by reporters, or maybe not hounded, but asked quite poignantly the fact that is their technique right is he teaching the right technique, not only trying to tackle but to strip the ball. He was very defensive about that in both ways, pun intended, Lovie Smith. So hopefully Eckler can get in there, bumble along. Hopefully big Mike Williams and big Gerald Everett can take a few catches and shrug off tacklers into the end zone.
Well, tied to that point, Jack, their rush defense last week allowed 281 yards on 40 attempts, so 7 yards per carry. They let Khalil Herbert have 157 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he looked good doing it. So the rush defense is porous, and we need that every little bit we can get at the minute.
No, seriously. So do we want to move Al on to Texans' weaknesses? What are they no good at? I mean, what are they really no good at? Further than the run defense.
No good, and third down efficiency as well.
Yeah.
I thought that they were 3 of 12 on the weekend. So they can improve on offense generally, but you know what? After what just happened to us, unfortunately, nothing feels safe anymore. Nothing feels warm. This is a team that has clear deficiencies, obvious deficiencies. Can we exploit it? I certainly hope so.
Jack, any further thoughts from you, mate? Before we move on to some game plan stuff?
Yeah, same thing, I think. It's the tackling, the rush defense. If this is a game for Eckler to take my challenge from 20 minutes ago or 30 minutes ago, this is the game to do it. And Lombardi, can we scheme some different kind of runs as well? Can we start looking at some exotic looks? Let's just pound. Then give Herbert some time to unleash the big cannon.
Just commit to it. Rotate the backs. I completely agree with you, Jack. Just commit to it. Rotate the backs, and stay away from Mokoronko. He's looking pretty dangerous. And defensive pressure up the right hand side. AJ Can and Titus Howard. They're probably the weak links. We've just got to get some early pressure on Davis Mills. Start forcing some errors, and not let them generate their run game.
Yep.
For mine. Cool. All right. Well. What do you think Staley's going to do, Al? What do you think his big moves? What's he going to change up?
What do I think he's going to do, and then what I'd like him to do. So I think what he will do is learn from the last time we played the Texans, where we blitzed Mills 16 times and it didn't work. I've got a feeling this time we might not be so happy on sending the pressures, particularly because it didn't work against Lawrence as well. And maybe we'll just say, here's a guy who will play coverage and mass disguises and make him patiently matriculate the ball down the field and hope he turns it over a couple of times. So I actually don't think we should rush 5 too often. What I'll say, a little different to what you both just said about running the ball, I feel like what's not working with our running game is that we're not throwing to establish the run. We're not actually stretching the field and loosening up the defense to run. I've got a feeling this week the Texans are going to sell out to stop the run because they're not scared of our backfield. You're going to have all of their linebackers creeping on up, and I don't want us to come out and just go run to start the game. I'd love to see us start with a couple of deep bombs and then loosen up the running game that way. That would be my approach.
Yeah, it's a mixed bag because there's a lot of value in generating play action as well, which sort of need to find the right rhythm, just so we can use a more variety of plays. Jack, what do you think about Lombardi's sort of scheme change this week?
Stop the pressure in the middle. So Lindsley, I hope, is back. Stop the pressure in up the middle. Help Salia out as much as possible. Get the ball to Mike Williams early. Get the ball to DeAndre Carter early, as you're saying, Alistair. Get the ball to Austin Eckler in the flat early. Get them scampering, upset their game plan. And you know what? Bosa being out, we might start to see even more of that hybrid defense. So I reckon we're going to start seeing Chris Rumpf rush the passer. I think we're going to start seeing Drew Tranquil come in those A and B gap blitzes a little bit, or he might just be the fourth rusher. And just unleash Derwin. Just have Derwin, Asante. If JC Jackson's back, awesome. Nas, we haven't even spoken about Nas the last couple of weeks, so he's been decidedly quiet in a good way, I guess. So yeah, just let's try and get to Davis in Davis. Like I know I'm good mates with him. Davis Mills. Let's just try and get to him in different ways that doesn't mean we're selling out over the middle, because I think that's where Brandon Cooks is going to get separation. Mind you, though, the Texans did have a couple of major injuries and Cooks didn't practice today. So I think from what I just read earlier. So, yeah.
Take all the help we can get at this point. All right, Jack, mate, do you want to lead us off with your result prediction?
I reckon it's going to be a stinker, 17-14 Chargers.
I was so close to going Texans. I just can't do it.
Nah, you can't.
I've got
yet.
a deep feeling that it's going to be a bit of, now is the winter of our discontent, and we're going to have one more week where everyone's going mental and then the sun will come out. I'm worried that'll happen, but I have predicted the Chargers to win 24-17. But it's my heart, not my head.
Yeah. 20-16. Lots of field goals for the Texans. And Chargers just do enough to hold them out on defense. But hopefully some promising signs to see. Hopefully we see some great stuff out of Jamari Salia making his debut, we hope, at that left tackle spot. Very exciting to see. And
Can I just ask Andy as well? Is Herbert actually going to play? That's one thing we haven't asked. What do you think? What's the prediction there?
Oh, everyone's been smashing this. Should we sit him or not? And I'm about 75-25 that he plays. If he says he's fit to play, he's an adult. You know, they always say no one's ever feeling 100% when they play NFL football. And he might be feeling 70%, if that. I just want to think that he's now sort of acclimated to having the injury while he's playing the game. You could see that he wasn't himself. He was inaccurate. He was throwing turnover-worthy plays. If he's right to go and he's had this last week and hopefully some more reps at practice, play.
I agree. I think he's going to play.
Me too.
I think he's going to play, yeah. Well, let's hope so. It'd be far more fun to watch than Chase Daniel or Easton Thick. We'll probably see both of them suiting up again, though. So, righto. We've all got Chargers wins. Redemption against the Houston Texans and Desmond King. Let's have a good week.
And Quessenberry.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Love him right now, to be honest, over World Cup.
Oh.
We digress. That's all we have time for today. Thanks for joining us, guys. We'll see you next time on Thunder Down Under. Go Bolts!
See you later.
Back pedals looking, firing, he's got Floyd turning, got it, 6 and 10, 5, high step, touchdown, San Diego!